Hello everyone. I'm about to teach the basics of algebra, which are factorizing. Just factorizing quadratic expressions or equations, and then we'll later move to cubic expressions and equations. Okay. I want us to play a game. It's a simple game, like just a game of numbers. Whenever I ask you to find the factors of 3, that's when you add will give you 4. Immediately you must go and look at 3. Immediately you must go and look at 3 here and check the factors. Okay, by the way, factors are two numbers that when you multiply give you a particular number. So in this case, the factors of 3 is only 3 in 1. And whenever we add these two, we get 4 because 3 plus 1 is 4. And whenever I ask for the factors of 9, that's when I add will give me 6. Immediately I must go and look at 9 and look at the pair of factors. The first pair is 9 and 1. The second pair is 3 and 3. So which pair will give me 6 when I add? Is 3 plus 3. Right together. Because both of these pairs, whenever I multiply them, they give me 9. Now I want to know which one of the pairs. That's when I add their numbers, I'll get 6. Whenever I ask for the factors of 12, that's when I subtract will give me 4. Immediately I go to 12, and then I'll check which one of the 3 pairs will give me 4 whenever I subtract. Right together. Then I found out which one it is the middle one. Is this one, because when I say 6 minus 2, I'll get 4. Whenever you factorize, guys, this is the only thing you look at. Right together. Just remember this game. How you read a quadratic equation or expression whenever I factorize, it will be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. You look at the factors of this number, the constant term, right together, and then the sign before it can be a plus or a minus. It will tell you what to do in order for you to obtain the value of b. How so? In this case, you can have x squared plus x minus 20. Whenever I read this thing, I read it as I want the factors of 20. That's when I subtract, because there's a minus here, will give me 1, the coefficient of x. If there's no number there, that means there is 1. Right together. So I just want the factors of 20. That's when I subtract will give me 1. The first thing to do, since I don't have a number here in front of x squared, I'll just put x here and there, and then I'll look for the factors of 20. That's when I subtract will give me 1. Where do I go? Immediately I'll go to 20. Here is 20. Right together. And it has 3 pair of factors. This one, and then this one, and then this one. Right together. There's only one pair. That's when I subtract will give me 1. That's 5 and 4. Because I know when I multiply 5 and 4, I get 20. But when I subtract the 2, I get 1. So I'll just write 5 here and the 4 there. Another one, I can be asked to find to factorize something like this. 5x plus 6. Same thing applies. Put x here and there, and then you want the factors of 6. The factors of 6, this number here, that's when we add, because there's a plus, will give you 5. The factors of 6, that's when you add, will give you 5. Go straight to 6 and check the factors. Here is 6, here there's 2 pairs, this one and this one. There's only one pair, that's when you add the factors. There you'll get 5, which is what? 3 and 2. I know that whenever I say 3 and 2, when I multiply the 2, I'll get 6, but when I add them, I'll still get 5. All together. Another one could be x squared minus 6x minus 16. Minus 6x minus 16. I'll just put an x there, and then I will read my equation. I want the factors of 16. That's when I subtract, because there's a minus there, will give me 6. I go straight to 16. There is 16 over there. The pair that's when I subtract will give me 6 is only 8 and 2, because when I say 8 minus 2, I'll get 6. So I'll just write 8 there and the 2 there. Fourth one, x squared minus 10x plus 9. I put an x there and an x there. Okay. How to read this thing? It says find the factors of 9. That's when you add, will give you 10. Go straight to 9, look for the factors. Here is 9 there. The factors are 9 and 1. 9 and 1. Okay, but we cannot just leave our brackets as empty like this, nah? There must be signs that must be inside these brackets. It can be minuses and plus, or it can be plus or a minus sign. All right, together. How do we know? Okay, here on number 1 and number 3, let me use red. Let me use red. Number 1 and 3. Okay, since this guy here is negative, please write this down, guys. Remember, this is very important. Since the constant term is negative, it simply means that our two brackets will have different signs. Are we together? Since they will have different signs, it simply means that one bracket will have a plus and another bracket will have a minus. But you don't just guess. Are we together? You must look at the factors that you have, and your bigger factor will always take the sign of the middle term. In this case, 5 is the bigger factor. So 5 must always take the sign of the middle term. That means I'll have plus here, and here it will be the alternate sign, which is minus. Are we together? Same thing applies with number 3. The constant term here is 16. I have a negative value here. Are we together? Since my value is negative, it simply means that my two brackets will have different signs. But I don't just guess which bracket gets a plus, which one gets a minus. I just look at my factors, and the bigger factor will always take the sign of the middle term. In this case, 8 is bigger than 2. That means the sign of the middle term, this one, will come here, and here it will be its opposite. Are you together? Please pause the video and do the example on your own. Pause the video Okay, I'm assuming that you were able to write x here, and you looked for the factors of 6. That's when you subtract will give you 1, and those are 3 and 2. Since 6 is negative, the constant term is negative, it simply means your brackets will have 2 different signs, and that means the bigger factor will always take the sign of the middle term. In this case, 3 is bigger than 2. That means here we'll have a plus and a minus here. Okay, now let's move to assigning the signs if ever the constant term is positive. In this case, we have a positive here, a plus sign, as you can all see. When it's a plus sign, it's simple. The two brackets will have the same sign, but not just any sign. It will be the sign of the middle term. So in this case, the sign of the middle term is this one. So we'll just put it in both brackets. Are we together? In this case as well, we had a plus. That means our brackets must have the same sign, but not just any sign. The sign of the middle term, which is minus and minus. Please pause the video and do this one on your own. X squared minus 10x plus 21. Okay, I'm assuming that you got this correct. You wanted the factors of 21. That's when you add will give you 10. In this case, the factors of 21, that's when you add will give you 10, 7 and 3. Because when you say 7 multiplied by 3, you get 21. But when you say 7 plus 3, you get 12. Are you together? Since the sign here is plus, it simply means our brackets will have the same sign, but not just any sign, the sign of the middle term. Ta. I hope you guys understand. This is how you factorize a quadratic trinomial. Are you together? There are instances whereby yes, the expression is quadratic, but it doesn't have 3 terms. Let's check start by checking if c is equal to 0. Are you together? We have 2x squared plus 4x. You're supposed to factorize this thing. Now we cannot look at the factors of c because c is 0. Are you together? The only thing here you must do is to take out a common factor. Are you together, guys? Taking out a common factor, you just look at both your terms. It's okay. What is common here between my two terms? 2 is common because 2 can get into the first term and the last term as well. Another thing that is common is x. So 2x is common. And whenever I take out 2x, I'll be left with x. Whenever I take out 2x here, I'll be left out with x. And whenever I take out 2x here, I'll be left out with 2. Are you together? This thing is true because even when you try to go back to your original equation by just multiplying both terms inside the bracket by your common factor, it must take you back to the original equation. Are you together, guys? Okay. If you have x squared minus 6x, we are supposed to factorize this thing. What is common here? X is common. If I take out x, I'll be left with x, and then here I'll be left with 6. Are you together? Please, guys, if you have x squared, this thing simply means that we have 2 x's multiplying one another. And if you take out 1, let me erase it. If you take out one of them, you'll be left with one of them. Are you together? So please note that x squared just simply means you have two x's multiplying one another. Are together? So this is how you factorize if ever you don't have a constant term. If c is 0, you just need to take out a common factor. Are we together? Let's do two examples. Please pause the video and do the examples with me. No, not with me, rather on your own. We have 3x squared plus 15x. That's number 1. Number 2, we have 2x squared. Let's use a negative this time. Minus 32x. Third one, 7x squared minus 21x. Okay, pause the video and do these things on your own. Okay, I am sure that you got these things right, because you got this. Okay, for the first one, 3 is a factor of 3, and it's also a factor of 15. So 3 is common in this case, and also x is common. So take out 3x. It seems like I've written 3 multiply. Guys, excuse my handwriting. It's 3x. When I take out 3x, I'll be left with x here and 5 there. Are we together? In this case, whenever I take out 2x is my common factor, rather. When I take it out, I'll be left with what? X minus 16. On the last one, 7x is my common factor. I'll be left out with x minus 3. Another one, let's take something like this, because now it seems like it seems like the coefficient of x squared will always be common, and it's not always the case. Nah? Sometimes you can have something like 4x squared minus 6x. Are we together? The lowest common multiple between 4 and 6 is 2. 2 can get into both 4 and 6 without leaving a remainder, and it's the lowest number that can do so. All right, together. And then x is also common. So whenever I take out 2x from the first term, I'll be left with another 2x. All right, together. Whenever I take out 2x from the second term, I'll be left with a negative 3. Whenever I multiply these two, they must take me back to the sky. Are you together? So this is how you factorize. This is how you factorize a quadratic expression if and only if the value of c is equal to 0. In simple terms, if we don't have a constant term. Sometimes we have to factorize if the value of b is 0. What does this thing mean? It simply means that we don't have the middle term, just have two terms, x squared minus 4, like this. This thing here is called the difference of two squares, and factorizing it is very simple. Just open two brackets, and then you go like, okay, what is the square root of x squared? Is x, just write x in both brackets. The square root of 4 is 2, just write the 2's there, and then the signs will alternate, minus and plus. You can have 4x squared minus 9, same thing applies. What is the square root of 4x squared? That's 2x. What is the square root of 9? 3. Minus and plus. Are we together? you can have a whole lot of different numbers. You can have, what else can you have? You can have 9x squared minus 25. You can take out the square root. What is the square root of 9x squared? That's 3x. The square root of 25 is 5. Minus and plus. This is how you factorize difference of two squares. All right, together, guys. Please note that a sum of two squares is not factorizable. If you have x squared plus 16, just leave it like this. There's something you can do about this thing. It is as simple, it is as simplified as much as possible. You just have to leave it like this. All right, together. Okay. Now let's try to solve x in quadratic equations. There are steps of solving x. Please write them down. There are steps of solving x. Né? Step number 1. You have to remove fractions. You have to remove fractions or sets if you have them, or brackets if you have them. Né? Then after doing that, the second step, you must put your formula in standard form. What is standard form? Not formula, rather, the equation in standard form. Standard form simply means that you have everything on your left hand side and 0 on your right hand side. All right, together. And then the third step, you must make a to be greater than 0, positive. Okay, let me just write in simple English. Make a positive or greater than 0. It's the same thing. If possible, make a to be equal to 1. All right, together. And then step number 3, you simplify. Part of simplifying is factorizing, né? And then did I say step number 3 twice there? Then step number 5, there's a rule that we use, né? The rule states that if you have two things multiplying and your answer is 0, it simply means that the first thing could be 0 or the second one could be 0. Alright, together. So for example, let's say we have x squared minus x minus 30 is equal to 0. Whenever I go, I'll check step by step. The first step says remove fractions, sets, and brackets. I don't have any of these. Then I move. The second step says put everything in standard form. Already everything is in standard form. I have everything on the left hand side and 0 on the right hand side. The third step says make A to be positive. A is positive. If possible, make A to be equal to 1. In this case, it is equal to 1. And then the fourth step says factorize or simplify. How to factorize this? I'll write x here and x there. I want the factors of 30 that when I subtract will give me 1. What are those factors? Those factors are 5 and 6. Are you together? Since I have a minus here, it simply means my brackets will have two different signs. Since they will have two different signs, the bigger factor will always take the sign of the middle term. So here I'll have a minus because 6 is bigger than 5. And then I'll have a plus here. And then now I'm done factorizing. I must move to my fifth step. The fifth step says if I have two things multiplying and the answer is 0, it simply means that the first thing is 0 or the second one is 0. So x is equal to negative 5. Whenever you take a number to another side of an equal sign, it changes the sign. Then x is equal to a 6. This is how you solve x. You remove fractions. The first step, please write them down. First step, remove fractions. Second step, first step, remove fractions, sets or brackets. Second step, you put everything to be on standard form. Third step, you make A to be positive. If possible, make A to be equal to 1. Fourth step, you simplify or factorize. Then the fifth step, use the rule that states that if two things are multiplied, the answer is 0. Is either the first one is 0 or the second one is 0. Then you solve. Sometimes we can have situations like x minus minus 6 over x is equal to a negative 5. Are you together? The question says solve x. We only solve, by the way guys, we only solve x if we have an equal sign. The tool of solving equations in mathematics the tool of solving problems in mathematics is an equation. You can't solve anything without having an equation. Are you together? Sometimes they can describe a scenario to you. You must create an equation out of that scenario and then solve. Okay, in this case, we're about to solve x now. Whenever I solve x, I don't want to have fractions. I must remove all the fractions that I have, and whenever I have fractions, I must always restrict my solution. Are you together? How so? I'll check my denominator. In mathematics, I don't want to have 0 as my denominator, because if that's the case, everything will be undefined. Are you together? So in my case, my denominator, right here, restriction. My denominator is x. Are you together? So x, whenever I solve, that solution that solution that I'll get, x must not be equal to 0. Are you together, guys? And then now we can go on with working. Okay, I'm supposed to solve x, and whenever I solve, I don't need to have fractions. I must check for the LCD. My lowest common denominator, in this case, I only have one LCD. Which is x. Are you together? That means I must multiply each and every term by the LCD. I'll do that here in green so that it will be visible. Now, when I say x multiply by the LCD I'll write in black. I have 6 over x here, then I have 5, negative 6, negative 5. Okay, whenever I have x times x, I'll get x squared. So here, that means after multiplying by the LCD, I'll have x squared. Are we together? And then let's go back. I have negative 6 over x multiplied by x. The x's will cancel because if one is the numerator and the other is the denominator, they'll cancel. I'll be left with 6, negative 6. And then that means here I'll have negative 6 is equal to negative 5 times x is just negative 5x. Then now I've removed the fractions. Are we together? My second step says what? Put everything to be in standard form. I'll write x squared plus 5x minus 6 is equal to 0. Please note that the sign of the negative 5x changed whenever it comes to the other side. Now everything is in standard form. I'm going to the third step. The third step says make a to be positive. A is the coefficient of x squared. If a is positive, then that's cool. If possible, make it to be equal to 1. In this case, a is equal to 1. Then it's cool, we can work. And then the next step says factorize. I want the factors of 6. That's when I subtract will give me 5. X, that's 6 and 1. I know that 6 multiplied by 1 is 6, and 6 minus 1 is 5. Okay, so since here I have a negative, it simply means my brackets will have different signs. But the bigger factor will always take the sign of the middle term. So since the sign of the middle term is 5, it's plus rather, that means 6 will get the plus and then 1 will get the negative. So this thing simply means that x plus 6 is 0 or x minus 1 is 0. So x is equal to a negative 6 or x is equal to 1. Are we together, guys? So this is how we work. Whenever we have fractions, this is how we solve x. This is how we solve x whenever we have fractions. I'm looking for the one with surds now. I'm looking for the one with surds so that I can show you how to go about with it. Okay, whenever I have surds, for example, whenever I have surds, whenever I have brackets and sets, I always have to restrict my answer. I have 2x minus 9 plus 6 is equal to x, né? Okay. Now here the problem is that I have sets in my equation. I'm supposed to solve x and I have sets in my equation. For me to remove sets, I must isolate the part that has sets. Are we together? So in this case, I must have 2x minus 9 on one side and then everything else must be on the other side. Are you together? And then I must write my restriction here. My restriction should be written here. Are you together? Everything that is under a square root, whenever I put everything under a square root, I must get something which is positive. Are you together? So my restriction should say x minus 6 should be greater or equal to 0. Then whatever solution that I'll get must be greater or equal to 6. If it's not greater or equal to 6, that solution is not applicable. Are we together? So whatever solution, restriction, whatever solution that I get, for my x value has to be greater or equal to 6. Okay. Now we are done with the restriction. Let's get on to solving. For me to remove a square root, I must square both sides, because a square is an opposite of a square root. Are you together? And when I do so, I'll have 2x minus 9, and then here just open two brackets. Whenever you have a square, it simply means you're multiplying two things that are the same. Ne? You have x minus 6, x minus 6. Okay. I still have 2x minus 9. This thing, I'm glad I have this equation, because now I have to show you guys how to deal with a FOIL. For me to remove brackets, each term on the first bracket must multiply both terms on the second bracket. Are you together? How so? X must multiply this and must also multiply this thing. So I'll have what? X squared minus 6x. Are you together? And then the negative 6 must multiply this and that as well. So minus 6 times x is minus 6x. And negative 6 times a negative 6 is positive 36. Are you together? And then I still have 2x minus 9. I have x squared minus 6x, not minus 6x rather. Now it's negative 12x plus 36. Are you together? I don't have brackets, I don't have fractions, I don't have surds. The next thing that I must do is to make my equation to be in standard form. So I will have x squared minus 12x minus 2x plus 36 plus 9. Please note that the things that I've written in green, I've taken them from one side of the equation to the other side. So whenever positive 2x jumps an equal sign, it becomes negative. Whenever a negative 9 jumps an equal sign, it becomes positive. So I will have x squared minus 14x plus 45. Are you together? So I just want the factors of x, that's when I add, will give me 45. X and x, no man, will give me 14 rather, as case. Factors of 14, that's when I add, will give me 14. That's 9 and 5. Are you together? The sign here is plus. It simply means my bracket will have the same sign. Since my bracket will have the same sign, it won't just have any sign, but it must always take the sign of the middle term. It will be minus here and the minus there. Are you together? So that means I'll have x is equal to 9 or x is equal to 5. But please note that this one is not applicable. Ne? in this case x is 9 only. I'm saying this one is not applicable because we had our restriction here, and we said that whatever x value that you'll find, it must be greater or equal to 6. 5 is less than 6, so it's not applicable. I hope it makes sense. It makes sense. Let's say we had something like this: x minus 7, x minus 3 equal to 3. Please don't do this, you'll get arrested, guys. Yo, don't say x minus 7 is 3 or x minus 3. Yo, you'll get arrested. Don't do this. Don't do this. The math gurus will arrest you. The first thing that you must do here, if you had a 0 here, yes, you're going to say x minus 7 is 0, x minus 3 is 0. But since it's not 0, we have a number there. You don't have to do that. You just need to remove the brackets. Whenever you solve x, there are steps that we follow. Please remember that. The first one says remove fractions, sets, or brackets. In this case, we have brackets. How do we remove brackets? By doing this. You'll say x multiplied by x, you'll get x squared. X multiplied by a negative 3, you'll get a negative 3x. And then the second number in the first bracket will multiply the two numbers on the other bracket as well. You have negative 7 times x is minus 7x. Negative 7 times a negative 3, it's a positive 21. This thing is equal to 3. Right, together. And then I will have x squared minus 10x plus 21 is equal to 3. Now I don't have fractions, sets, brackets. The next step is to put everything in standard form. I have x squared minus 10x minus 21 minus 3. Whenever a 3 jumps the equal sign, it changes its sign. So x squared minus 10x plus 18. Is it 18? Are you together? So in this case, I wrote this thing incorrect, but it's fine. It will teach me, it will force me to teach you something that is important, especially for grade 11 and 12 learners. If you're solving and you cannot find factors that when you add will give you a particular number, there is an equation you use. It's called the quadratic equation. This thing is a tool we use. It says minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Here you are not thinking, you're just substituting. You only need the values of a, b, and c. A is equal to 1. A is the coefficient of x. B is equal to negative 10, the number in front of x, and then c is positive 18. You just need to substitute these things on this formula, and then you'll get your answer. This is how you do it. This is how you solve by using a quadratic equation. Okay guys, please stay tuned. I will upload videos whereby I solve many algebraic equations and simplifying expressions. I hope this video was helpful to you. Please stay tuned.